Hello everyone, thank you for checking into the Danumblades YouTube channel. Just a short video for this week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting these red pinecone scales onto a trapper that I've done with the file work on the back end. So it's just a bit of a quick process of how I go about it. These particular ones are going to be fitted with mosaic pins and also a lanyard tube as well. Right, might as well get started. First things I want to do is just get rid of these lumps of epoxy that are on the top of these scales. Just makes it that little bit easier when I come to drill them. So what I want to try when I'm drilling it is to try and get the centre where the mosaic pin is to go through the actual centre of the pine cone as much as I possibly can. Might be a case that it comes off slightly, but that should work out when I sand or shape the front of the handle down. So what I've done is just gone over the holes again. Originally I've drilled it with a 6.1mm drill bit, but I always find it a bit tight for the mosaic pins in, even though it works perfectly fine for the metal. So I've just gone through it with a 6.2 drill bit, just to open it up slightly, and it makes it a lot easier for the mosaic pins to fit in. Now just taking the mosaic pins down to the length that I want them. Get my coffee out of the way. One. Lay the other one on top. Really do need to get some new blades. Save that little bit that's left over for another project later on. So what I'll need to do with these is just taper the edges on them. One, gets rid of any sharp parts, and also makes it a lot easier to feed through the handles and the blade. Now hopefully they should fit. There we go. Always a bonus. Make sure I do the lanyard tubes. Now sometimes again what I find is that sometimes the hole for the lanyard tube, even though it's gone through the metal quite fine, that the either acrylic or wood or whatever I've drilled, it might be just slightly too tight. So what I'll do is I'll just, work that slightly with a file, just open it up slightly and then fit the lanyard tube in as well. Always dropping something. Right, get them cut. Now I've already got a set of scales cut out for another DB trapper, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark along front there, cut that section off and then just get it onto the grinder just to round it off and make it nice and smooth. Next thing I'm going to do is just put a bit of a chamfer on the edge of the scales. There's no magic to this at all. All I do is I put my little work rest on. I've got a block with a sloped side on it. Just get a couple of these small clamps to put it onto the work rest. And then just simply put the handle against it and just work the edges down. What I'll do is I'll work it down to a couple of millimetres, change the belt for a finer one, so I'll probably go on to a 320 after this, work the edges again and then back to the chamfer, and then what I'll do is I'll finish it off by hand at about 600 grit, then put it on the buffing wheel just to polish it up, and then it's pretty much ready to go onto the knife. The only thing that I will do is I'll drill some small little divots on the inside of the handle. It just makes it a better fix when it comes to gluing it all up. So that's those sorted, along with a couple of others. Now what I'll do is, like I say, I'll take these down to 600 grit and then give them a polish up. Right, before I do my final buff up on that, I'm just going to get it onto the drill and put the little divots in to help the glue. So you can just see all those little divots I've drilled out. I did think that I'd filmed it, but clearly didn't press the right button. Next thing I'm going to do is get it onto the buffing wheel just to clean up these two bits. I don't bother about anything else because that'll be done at the end of the build. Just get a cloth to wipe those down. go. Brighten them up. What I'll do is I'll probably put it on a polishing mop without any, take my mask off, put it on a polishing mop without any wax on at all, just to get everything off, and that should bring it up nice and sparkling and bright. There we go, a lot better. So now we're on to the home run. We've just got the handles to glue on. So what I usually do, give the knife a wipe down with some acetone, clean it all up as best as possible. Now on these knives, because I'm doing a pair of them, I've got some, well, you can't quite see it until I finish it, some file work on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some Alumilite black dye to my epoxy, so once it's stuck together it just fills all the gaps up in between for the file work, and it just shows it up a little bit better. Right, so I've got the epoxy. I use G-Flex, seems to be quite a common one for the knife makers. I'm going to mix it out, equal parts, to help us do that. Little set of scales. The epoxy I've kept in a warm cabinet, just so it's a bit more pliable, a bit easier to use. It's January and it's just, the weather's just started to turn cold. It's taken a long time. There's only been a couple of frosts so far this year, but it just helps it work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure it equal parts with the little set of scales that I've got, add in some of the Alumilite black dye, and then stick it all together. Right, transfer that over. Right, so the last thing I'm going to do is where the epoxy is pressed out at the front of the scales, where it goes onto the blade, I'm just going to use a couple of cotton buds, a little bit of acetone, and I'm going to wipe that out and get it clean. Clamp it up again just at the front to make sure it's all nice and solid, and then I'm just going to leave it to harden. Right, so I'll now leave this one for at least 24 hours for the epoxy to harden. If you want to see what it looks like, just make sure that you keep up with Danumblades Instagram page, and I'm sure I'll be putting some pictures up there shortly. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.